Thanks for inviting us in. We've got breaking new details for you tonight in that mass shooting at Greenwood Park Mall that killed 3 innocent people and sent 2 others to the hospital. In the last hour, we talked with the family of a 12-year-old who was wounded in that shooting, and we just tracked down our first statement from the bystander who killed the suspect. Tonight, we're also digging into the latest timeline and the 911 calls from the attack that lasted only a few minutes. We're going to get to all of that for you in a moment. We want to start tonight with our comprehensive team coverage with Lauren Kostick, who just heard from one of the families of the victims. Lauren?
Yes, Scott, within the last few hours, we were able to talk to the sister and mom of one of the victims who had a piece of a bullet lodged in her back. You know, our Carlos Diaz was able to go over there tonight, and thankfully she is home and she is doing okay. And the mom tells us that the 3 of her daughters were at the mall with their grandmother when they heard a man start shooting. 2 of the girls, 14-year-old Audrey and 12-year-old Bella, were separated as they ran away. And that's when Bella felt a stab in her back. But the family didn't find out that it was part of a bullet till she got home.
No mom, don't touch me, don't touch me, my back hurts. I'm like, what? And so I'm like, did somebody hit you or something? And she, no, I don't know. And as I went to go look, I put her shirt back a little ways and it was kind of stuck. And that's when I realized there was an actual piece of a bullet sticking out of her back, and it was right over her spine area, which just put me into sheer terror and panic.
You know, that'll always be in my mind. I'll never forget that moment and the shots. I will never forget that. But I'm living, you know, so it's just crazy how this world is.
And tonight we're also learning more about the other victims, including Victor Gomez, a 30-year-old husband and father. Family tells us he was waiting for his wife outside the restroom when the gunman walked out of the men's room and began shooting. Seconds later, the shooter then shot Pedro Pineda and his wife Rosa, who were in the food court having dinner together. And those lives were remembered at a vigil just earlier tonight at Resurrection Lutheran, a church just a few miles up the road. They lit candles and prayed. The pastor telling us he wanted to bring the community together tonight to heal after such a tragic event. And we also spoke at the vigil with Indiana Latino Democratic Caucus, and they tell me this is extremely personal for them because all the victims are Latino, and making them question whether this was a targeted event, which is something that is now up to police to determine. Felicia.
Lauren, thank you so much. Tonight, we're seeing our first statement from the man who stepped in to shoot and kill the suspect. Lawyers for Eli Dickens say he saved countless lives and say the attack could have been much worse. But out of respect for the investigation, Eli will not be making any substantive comments on the shooting until after the investigation wraps up. Police say the 22-year-old used the pistol he was carrying under Indiana's new permitless carry law and fired 10 rounds at the suspect from about 40 yards away. Tonight, we're hearing from the grandmother of Eli's girlfriend, who was with him when the shooting happened and saw the gunman leave the bathroom.
I'm glad they're both okay, and I'm glad he did what he did, but we need prayers for him. He needs prayers because that's all. To take somebody's life is hard.
Now, the shooting last night started and ended so quickly, with police estimating the attack only lasted a couple of minutes. Our Emily Longnecker spent all evening breaking down the timeline. And Emily, tonight we do know the shooter was in that mall for an hour before the attack, right?
That's right, Scott. You know, at this point, the police cars, the police tape, they're long gone from the Greenwood Park Mall. But this investigation is far from over. Police still don't have a motive yet, but what they do have is a firm timeline based on graphic surveillance video from inside.
Sunday, 4:54 p.m. Surveillance video shows the suspect entering the mall food court at entrance 4.
He walks directly to the food court restroom.
Police say he spends the next hour and 2 minutes there.
We believe, and we don't want to speculate, but we believe he was getting ready.
When he comes out at 5:56, he starts shooting. 30-year-old Victor Gomez is his first victim. Shoppers and workers inside the mall immediately call 911.
The mall, person shot.
The first report from a dispatcher comes seconds after the shooting started.
They're advising there's a male shooter. He's possibly in the food court at this time, more than a dozen people.
At the same time, an officer reports people running out into the mall parking lot.
Engine 92, medic 94, battalion 9.
An ambulance and medics are dispatched within 35 seconds, with more 911 calls continuing to come in. The suspect's shooting spree is still underway.
He then points his rifle into the food court where Pedro and Rosa Pineda were eating dinner and shot both Rosa and Pedro.
Then police say the gunman fired several more rounds into the food court, hitting a 22-year-old woman in the leg. A 12-year-old who was running towards door 4 is also hit in the back by a bullet fragment that ricochets off a wall. At this point, it's only been a minute since the gunman emerged from the bathroom. 5:57, an armed citizen in the food court, Elijah Dickens, pulls out a handgun and shoots the suspect, firing 10 rounds.
The suspect attempted to retreat back into the restroom and fell to the ground after being shot.
At 5:58, 2 minutes after the first 911 call, dispatchers give more information about how many victims EMS crews may be finding inside.
So far, possibly 3. Our phone lines are still all lit up.
By 6:06 p.m.
Let's go ahead and declare this a mass casualty.
Emergency crews still don't know if the shooter is dead. But 12 minutes after the shooting starts, SWAT escorts paramedics inside to treat victims who are still alive.
And as we stand here in shock.
Not even 24 hours later, the mayor of Greenwood is talking about being part of a group he never wanted to be a part of.
I grieve for these senseless killings, and I ache for the scars that are left behind on the victims and on our community.
We still don't have a motive in this shooting, Emily.
Yeah, Scott, you know, the investigation is just a little over 24 hours in, but state and federal investigators are combing over every lead, trying to figure out why this happened.
All right, Emily, thanks so much. Rachel Krause joins us live from the newsroom tonight at 11. She spent the last few hours taking a look into the suspect's past for answers. Rachel?
Scott, we know that the suspect had a juvenile record with a history of school fights and running away, but police say he did not have an adult criminal history and no reported history of mental illness. Now, we know he spent time at the shooting range not far from the Polo Run apartments where he lived alone. We went to that shooting range earlier today asking for records of the suspect's time there, but we were denied. Today, we did find out from the suspect's family that he was recently evicted, and tonight we are working to confirm that information. But we do know for a fact he recently resigned from a warehouse job. As far as the suspect's online history, police are still combing through that. We know that his cell phone was dumped in the mall's bathroom toilet, and investigators are working to dry that out and get information from the phone. Searching his apartment after the shooting, police say they found something strange.
When the SWAT team went in to clear it, the oven was on high temperature and had a laptop within the oven and a can of butane.
Police say they are not sure if the intent was to cause a fire or just damage the laptop, but they are sending the laptop off to Quantico to be analyzed. The can of butane in the oven unattended, forcing neighbors to evacuate for a couple of hours.
We came outside, see nothing but lights and everything. So they told us to get up, after that, about 15, 20 minutes, I went to your grandson, and we just struck out.
In all honesty, I thought that, they were probably looking for the shooter. It's not the first time that shots have been fired through here.
Neighbor we spoke with says he has seen the suspected shooter in the apartment complex in passing before, saying at the time he didn't notice anything inherently odd or bad about him. Scott?
All right, Rachel, thanks so much. And our coverage of this Greenwood Park Mall shooting continues. In about 5 minutes, we've got new details about plans for the mall starting tomorrow and the effort to reunite shoppers with items lost behind in last night's chaos.